welcome to the Jazz Roundtable, brought to you by Live at 0 BPM, with your host, Grammy Award-winning percussionist and mallet player, Billy Halting. Tonight's guests, Pat Kelley, Joe Robinson, and Vinny Raniolo. If you care to donate, click on the donate/tip jar link in the description or on our website at live@0bpm.com/tipjar. You can also tip on Venmo at ZEROBPM. And now, let's get to the music with your host, Billy Halting.
Hey, everybody out there in internet land. We're doing another Jazz Roundtable. This is number 5, and it's guitar night. It just kind of worked out that way. It's kind of exciting because we have LA, Nashville via Australia, and New York all in the house together. And let me get the guys in here, you know? There they are. Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hey, Billy.
How you doing? Good. Well, we're up on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook right now, live, and this also becomes a podcast. I did mention in the intro that if you want to tip, we're in 100% tip-based. The money gets distributed evenly here, and anything you can do to say thank you, that'd be great, even if you're listening to the podcast or watching the archive. You're watching this tomorrow or, in 2028, and you want to tip, I make sure the money gets to the right people. So anyway, enough about that. Let me introduce the guys here from Los Angeles. We have Mr. Pat Kelley.
Thank you.
And then Joe Robinson, who is currently in Nashville but hails from Australia.
Hello, everybody.
And then our New York representative, Mr. Vinny Raniolo. I pronounced your name right, didn't I, Vinny? Was that right?
Beautifully.
Okay, good. I've been practicing all week. So, but let's just jump right into it. One of the first questions we like to ask, because people are always interested in, is when your day starts, when it's music time for you guys, what do you get into? What's your first thing? Pat, let's start with you.
Wow. Well, I usually just pick up the guitar and most of the time now I just start playing some of the tunes I know and just kind of, don't worry about going too fast, just kind of get warmed up and just, I mostly play tunes now. My practicing is so much different than it was years ago when I was drilling things like most of us have done and all that sort of thing. So I usually just play some tunes and kind of have a good time with them for a while and I get warmed up. That's usually how I get started.
Do you have a particular set of tunes your kind of go-to warm-up tunes, or do you just whatever pops into your head?
Not necessarily, because I've got a lot of tunes and sometimes it might be one that I'm just trying to get together more or just one that I've played a lot. Can kind of go either way.
Yeah. And Joe, what about yourself?
Well, I've been practicing like I used to when I was a teenager, ever since the beginning of lockdown. I always love waking up early. So when I was a teenager, I would set my alarm for 4 a.m. and I would get up and practice before school. And so that's kind of incompatible with touring and playing concerts where you go on stage at 8 p.m. So I kind of got back into the early morning routine during COVID, and I really enjoyed that. And basically, what that looks like for me is I'll wake up, quite early, and I have a practice journal. And generally, I'd practice for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. 4 hours is my goal. Mm-hmm. And I'm working on arranging tunes, practicing tunes, writing tunes, and a whole variety of things. And I actually have been posting my daily practicing schedule.
Oh, really?
On my Guitar Synergy channel.
Oh,
so,
cool. We're going to talk about the Synergy channels and all the teaching channels you guys are using these days. But that's interesting. Now, when you do the journal, do you then look at yesterday and say, I didn't songwrite enough yesterday, so I'm going to do more of that today? Do you try to balance it out, or do you kind of go with what your inspiration is for that day?
Well, usually I'm working for a specific project. Like, I want to make a video on this song, so I'll kind of be woodshedding that arrangement for a while. Mm-hmm. Or I'm going in the studio to record this song, so I'll be practicing that one. So usually it just depends on what I'm really trying to work on at the moment. But the journal to me just helps me stay focused, and it helps me be aware of how I'm spending my time. And I just find I just have a lot more productive, practicing experience if I do that.
I seem to remember that one of the women on the team that I work with on the music camps, which I'll explain later, that's where I met Joe and I met Vinny, she is into this journaling thing. And I guess there's apps for this sort of journaling they're not like to-do lists, they're more like a modern version of these sorts of things. So I got to look those up and get into that more. But this seems like that's a musical extension of that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much like people do morning pages and they get up and journal in the morning. And yeah, I mean, the feeling of having put in a few hours of practice before 9 or 10 a.m. Just, to me, is a great way to start the day. So that's my preferred way of doing things.
And Vinny, what about you?
Well, definitely I agree with Joe that the lockdown has helped me get back into my morning routine of practicing, especially since there's no gigs. So I haven't had those late nights. So I've been able to wake up early and practice, get the guitar in my hands, get the blood flowing, have a little cup of coffee, get a little inspiration. I'd start out just playing a couple chords, playing a couple melodies, and then, working on some tunes and working on some projects that I've had coming up. There hasn't been that many projects because of COVID, but there's been a lot of recordings. So I've been working on that, learning some new songs, and just, keeping the guitar in my hands as much as possible, because with the lack of gigs, the gigs were always the reason why I had the guitar in my hands, because I had something to work for. So I've just been trying to keep the blood flowing in my hands and just keep the guitar in my hands and keep playing.
I get it. It's interesting during the line. I'm just going to ask you guys about the recording projects you're doing now. But I find that for myself, it's like I'm used to playing for 5 minutes on a recording. I don't know what's going to happen when I get called for a 4-hour gig. Just the chops and that sort of thing. So now, but speaking of that, during COVID, a lot of people have said that they're doing a lot more tracking at home for people. And what are you guys working on? We can start with you, Vinny.
Well, I've been working a lot with singer Dina Martin. So she's asked me to record a few things. That's Dean Martin's daughter. So she's had me record a few things for her. She's got a show every Friday night. And there's also a band that I've been playing a lot in New York City with before COVID. So they've been trying to record CDs, virtually, just having the violin player play and the bass player play. But usually it would start with me because I would come up with the arrangement. So I'd be the building block, the starting point. And I've been getting together with Frank here and there, and we've been doing some virtual gigs and stuff like that. So, COVID's been a little tough with music, but been trying to do as much as I can. I also have a channel that I've been doing a lot of educational work for. So I've just been keeping really busy with the recording end from my home. Got some nice microphones and just doing the best I could with that.
Now, when you say that you're basing the arrangements on you, are they asking you to, hey, well, where do you see this tune? What should we do with this? And you're just coming up with it, or are they giving you a direction and you're just the first one that lays tracks down?
It's led a little bit by the vocalist. Her name is Tatiana Eva Marie, and she kind of has an idea of what she wants for the song. Like she'll say, okay, well, I want an intro, 16 bars, whatever, and then she'll sing the melody, and then she'll say, okay, then I want a guitar solo, then I want a clarinet solo, then I want this, I want us to go back into the verse, and then I want us to change key and go to the chorus, and then I want you to come up with an ending. So it'll be a very loose arrangement, and then I'll kind of just be the one that plays the part, and then everybody has to match what I play after that.
That's cool. And Pat, you've been working on some things and producing and playing on some stuff, right?
Yeah, there have been a couple of things that have gone well. I co-produced a record with piano player George Kahn, and that we got that finished up during the pandemic, and it went to number 5 on the jazz, kind of straight-ahead jazz charts. And let's see, another record I was involved in with David Benoit, Mark Winkler, did a really neat record together, and I played on that as well. I didn't produce that, but had some couple of good guitar features on the record and everything. And that record's doing pretty well right now, I believe, too. Hasn't been out too long. So yeah, just trying to keep. Those are the two things that I guess got out the most. I've got a few things in the cans myself that I need to finish up and all that. And actually played a live gig last night, which was a lot of fun. It was with Greg Karukas. He's doing an organ thing, calls it a soul jazz organ party, and does a lot of the.
Yeah, well, that's how I met you.
A lot of fun.
You were going to come play here with Greg's group.
Yeah, I was going to do that with him at one
before,
time.
and then we got all shut down in December, and that's how I met
Yeah.
you. And we've still to have Greg's band come in and play. So we got to get on
we
that.
were tearing it up last night. Play over a 2-hour set, just straight through, outside at Spagattini. It's in Seal Beach, one of the kind of main jazz clubs here.
Yeah, it's a big one, and a lot of
Southern
guys.
California area, and great crowd. It was fun to be out there playing.
Cool. And Joe, what about yourself?
Well, I've been playing quite a few sessions here in Nashville for different people. Just being in town, it's nice to be around more for those things, because before COVID, I was on the road, 150 shows a year roughly, and I recorded a new album, which I happen to have an LP of right here, and that was kind of released in November.
That's Borders,
So
right?
it's Borders, yes. I really enjoyed putting that together, and I wrote the songs and recorded the album. Well, recorded and released the album within 30 days, so it was really a go to whoa, let's do this project. And other than that, I've been live streaming every week for 35 weeks now in a row.
Wow.
On my Facebook page and YouTube. And that's been really, really nice to connect with people. And I've also been recording a lot of videos here in my studio. Original songs and cover songs, putting them up on YouTube, as well as my teaching channel, Guitar
Cool.
Synergy. So lots of different things.
I want to dig into that really deep later, but let's spotlight Mr. Pat Kelley here for a second. Hi, Pat.
Hey, Billy.
Now, you might notice that Pat is in the house today. He's in studio today. We had some issues with the internet connection to his place, so he's gracious enough to offer to come down and play, and it looks great and it sounds great. So, Pat, for those of you who don't know him, I first heard Pat when I was in college, because Pat was a major force in the LA jazz fusion scene. Back before the whole smooth jazz thing, guys were playing just amazingly cool stuff in the jazz fusion world. And I actually saw Pat at a club called the Flying Jib. And I was underage, and somehow my roommates, who were overage, got me in there. You were playing with Vinny Raniolo. Who else was in that band at the time?
Oh, well, that was a killing band. Yeah, Vinny Raniolo, Neil Steubenhaus on the bass, Barnaby Finch on keyboards. Dave Boroff was the leader of the band, really, and Michael Fisher on percussion. So we played, we had some incredible audiences. We had such a buzz, you probably remember from the audiences were amazing. We'd have like Stevie Wonder, Al Jarreau,
Oh, wow.
Tommy LaPuma, all sorts of people coming, Jay Graydon, Bill Champlin, all these people came in there. It was like the happening place. And that was a big thing for everybody that was in that band. We were all kind of new guys in L.A. And started playing there, I guess right in the late 70s, actually, and then I think it lasted till about 1982. We played there for about 3 years, and
Well, I remember guys coming back from the shows just blown away, like, oh my God, they wouldn't shut up about it. And finally I was like, guys, you got to get me in. So, but now that was now when I looked up some of the albums that are available on iTunes. The first one is High Heels, but that's 89.
That's actually my third CD. That was some of the same guys. Actually, we tracked that. We tracked that whole record. Vinny played on that whole record, and we had two percussionists, Luis Conte and Michael Fisher, at the same time tracking at Ocean Way, great studio here, tracking several different keyboard players and several different bass players. John Patitucci, Neil Steubenhaus, Kenny Wilde.
Oh yeah.
Various had a bunch of different people in a few of the chairs. But anyway, that was real fusion days. I had the big old rack.
Yeah,
which
we were talking
I'm
about.
done with that now. That
Everybody
two
had
refrigerators
and of racks and stuff.
So much stuff, it's crazy.
But I want to, and something about all three of you is there's kind of some cool origin stories for you superhero guitar players. But why don't you tell them what you told me about your first instrument and how you got into styles and how you discovered jazz and that sort of thing?
All right, yeah. Well, I started playing when a ukulele my dad gave me because I was begging to play, and I was only about 4 years old or 4.5 years old. So he showed me how to read the little chord diagrams in a book, and I remember learning "My Buddy" was like the first song I ever learned. For some reason, I remember that it was in this book, and anyway, probably about 5.5 or so, he fixed up a little guitar that he had as a boy, and I started playing on that for a while before I got my first electric guitar, and just learning tunes. He would have jam sessions, and one of my still really close friends, he may be watching, named Fred Daniel, who used to come over and play with my dad, was a big influence too. He had a 1952 Blackguard Telecaster that had a sound that I always remembered. I'd go try to sing it, in my head, So I got pretty serious about it from the time I was 6, 7 years old, and I knew I wanted to be a pro guitar player even at that age.
Cool. And then, but now when I checked out the album, like what's the first album that I mentioned? High Heels.
Yeah, you mentioned
You're playing like an electric.
Oh yeah, it was much more electric. There's a lot of overdrive sound on the record, and big rack with a stereo sound and all that kind of stuff.
But you had switched by the time you did The Road Home, which was 5 years later. Were you playing? You had evolved your tone and your style a little bit there.
Well, I always had a jazz tone. I mean, I had an L5 that I got when I was a teenager, and I've got some old recordings that are on cassettes in various places that don't sound that different from what I'm doing here now. I mean, I've come quite a ways since then, but I had a lot of jazz sensibilities before the fusion thing, for sure. We were just, I moved. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I didn't say that, by the way. That's where I grew up. So when I moved to California, I had in mind that I wanted to be a jazz player and a studio musician, both. So that I grew up playing all kinds of different styles. A friend of my dad's, another friend, brought over some Howard Roberts and Johnny Smith and Joe Pass, other kinds of records. I started listening to Wes and Kenny Burrell and all the guys that guys my age would be listening to, and so I was doing that and studying that stuff at the same time I was in a teenage band playing Beatles songs and Hendrix and stuff like that, and then later in a soul band, also a 9-piece soul band with horns, which that was a very big thing probably for helping me learn how to play R&B rhythm and things that helped me get into a lot of the work situations. I've been extremely lucky to always be in work.
Yeah, well, you've done a lot. I mean, Natalie Cole, amongst a billion others. If you go look at the resume, I mean, if you want to see any full resumes and sort of, all that's on the website under the musicians tab. I've got full bios up of everybody and how you can find them on Facebook and everything. But Pat, do you want to play us a song?
I guess I could do that. Yeah, I kind of specialize mostly in older songs now. I mean, I just like the American Songbook, and so I know a lot of tunes like that. So here's one that was from 1941. From a movie called Babes on Broadway, which I've actually never seen, but I know it starred. Who did it star? Mickey Rooney. So anyway, let me play this song. It's called "How About You."
Very nice. So Francie, who you may know, Francie Kelley, has
think I know her.
She says it's Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney.
Judy Garland's who I meant to say. Yes, Mickey Rooney.
right.
I said. Somebody think.
And you also have a friend, Eddie Davis says, hi, Pat.
Hey Eddie, thanks for being here again.
Cool. And I'm going to come back to you, Pat, but I want to move over to Joe. And I've got a nice segue because, let's see, Larry D'Amico, who's watching from Illinois, says Joe's new album is great. And that's Borders is the newest one, correct? Yeah, I've been listening to that also. And I know you've got a cool origin story and how you got there, because listening to the albums that are on the Apple iTunes right now, you can hear how your focus, your style is changed a little bit and morphed and everything, but you can still hear a lot of that original style of playing even in the newest album. And let's go to Joe here. Let me get the little personal one-on-one thing here. So, hello, Joe. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for tuning in from Nashville. I know you and Vinny are staying up late to do this, which is kind of fun. So thank you.
No worries, Bill. It's nice to see you again. It's been too long.
It has been too long. Now, Joe, I met Joe because I direct a lot of music workshop camps around the country, and one I do is for Tommy Emmanuel. And Joe was one of the guests at one of the camps, and he came in and played, and it was kind of mind-blowing because he walks in, he looks so young, and he plays like an old soul, which is really neat. I'll put links to all these recordings and everything in the show notes for this, so you can go and easily find and do that. So. But Joe, why don't you tell us, now you did your first album when you were like 15, but you started playing way before that. How did you start? What was your origin story?
Well, I grew up in Australia out in the bush, and it was this little farmhouse, and my parents played music a lot, so I was around a lot of music and a lot of musicians. And I started playing piano when I was about 5 or 6, and I just couldn't really get into it. And I think it was because I had to sit there in the middle of the house and practice while everyone was listening to me. And I started playing guitar when I was 10, and I just fell in love with it and became obsessed with playing. I had a really great teacher when I first started who showed me how to play, folk songs and music I really enjoyed. And from there, I, started my own band and started jamming with any and everybody I could. And from there, I connected with Phil Emanuel and Tommy Emanuel. And when I heard Tommy play solo, it really inspired me to want to figure out how to play fingerstyle guitar in a way that, I could travel and perform as a solo guitarist. And that's kind of what I've been doing for the past number of years.
Well, let me ask a question, because we have a number of non-musicians that listen to this also, and we certainly have musicians that don't play guitar that listen as well. But can you describe, what does fingerstyle exactly mean?
Well, fingerstyle is using all 10 fingers to play the instrument. So rather than playing with a pick, which you can only play, it's more difficult to play counterpoint lines. And counterpoint, is 2 lines being played together. But with fingerstyle, I can play a melody on top. Now I can play some accompaniment with the thumb. And I can put both together.
Yes, it's just that simple, ladies and gentlemen. No, that's a great explanation, and so I'm sure people will understand that more. And we're going to, get into so. But you have a bunch of accolades and everything, but then you moved from Australia to the States at some point.
Yeah, I moved when I was 18 years old. Basically, I was the winner of Australia's Got Talent, and it was a large cash prize I won. And I had just left high school and was kind of just traveling around playing music. And I had the opportunity to play at a few music festivals in the US, and to do that I needed a visa. So I applied for a O1 visa, which actually lasts for 3 years, and I got it. And I thought, well, I met a manager over in the US, and I just made a lot of connections here in Nashville, especially where people are real friendly in the South. Mm-hmm. And I just thought I'll rent an apartment in Nashville for a year and make an album and see what happens. And I've been here for 11 years now. It's a great music community, and I've been fortunate to play with a lot of really incredible people.
That's awesome. Now, I forgot the question I was going to ask you. Well, do you want to play us something?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to play a new arrangement that I've been working on. It's an arrangement of the old Jose Feliciano song, Affirmation, that George Benson recorded on his 1975 album, 76 maybe? Breezy.
76.
Yeah, there you go.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very
Thank you.
cool. Well, I'm going to come back to you in a little bit because there's a lot of, your resume, and we're going to talk about the gigs. I looked at your schedule coming up, and you've got a bunch of stuff starting in July. And I also want to talk to all three of you guys about the teaching sites, but I want to go to Vinny right now. And let's see, let's get the Vinny cam up here. Here he is. I met Vinny on another Tommy Emmanuel trip and was blown away at the stuff because he was there kind of as a duo with Frank Vignola, right? Vignola? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
That's correct. Vignola, yep.
Vignola, okay. And they were playing this kind of what I would describe as like a jump swing gypsy jazz duo thing, but it was just way more than you'd expect from two guitar players. I mean, thoroughly arranged stuff. You guys it was really wonderful, and it was really fun. Watching you guys on stage is a blast. And you were describing it. Well, let's get back to your origin story because you have a great story about a teacher back in the day. You grew up and you started out on electric guitar, and
Yeah, well, I started on acoustic guitar.
Oh, you did?
I wanted to play guitar so bad. I was actually playing saxophone before. I don't know if I told you this, but just like Joe, he didn't want to play piano. I didn't want to play the saxophone just because I wasn't really into the whole like the spit on the mouthpiece and all that stuff. And then I'd pick it up and I'd smell my own breath, and it was weird. So I kind of gave up the saxophone for that reason. And I really wanted to play guitar because all my friends were playing the guitar. So it was more of a social thing for me. So, my parents didn't want me to play guitar. They thought I was just going to quit it like I was going to quit the saxophone. But my grandmother had my uncle's old acoustic that had such seriously high action, and it hurt my fingers to play, but I didn't care. I still played it. And then they saw me sticking with it. I got the Mel Bay Book 1, and it was trying to, play all the, I played all the stuff in Book 1, and then they're like, oh, all right, we're going to get you lessons. And that first teacher that I had was teaching me all these awesome jazz tunes, which were more of like the jam jazz tunes like Blue Bossa and all those Herbie Hancock tunes like Watermelon Man and Cantaloupe Island.
Well, how old were you at this time?
I started to play guitar when I was 13.
And you were learning jazz tunes at 13?
At age 13, yeah. I was learning how to play some jazz tunes. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing what my teacher was teaching me. But then I went to a school half a day specifically for music. It was like a board of cooperational educational services to learn a trade. So they had one for arts. So you could go for music, you could go for musical theater, visual arts, and whatever you wanted. So I went for music. We had a great jazz teacher, and he played us recordings. And I remember hearing Herb Ellis and Joe Pass, Two for the Road. And when I heard that, I knew I wanted to do that. And then he played me John Pizzarelli's Mr. Cole, P.S. Mr. Cole. He played me some Wes Montgomery. And I was like, I got to play jazz. But before that, when I first picked up the guitar, I wanted to hang out with my friends, so I learned all the Metallica riffs that they wanted to learn and play. So,
yeah.
I was a metalhead at first. So it was a long road to get to the jazz world.
Well, that's cool, but you're well-rounded because of that. Do you ever pick up the electric and play some Metallica tunes?
Yeah, here and there. I like playing a little Master of Puppets and One and stuff like that.
Very cool.
But mostly it's pop rock. Some people hire me for some pop rock, so I get into a little bit of the punk rock and pop rock stuff.
Well, that's cool. And now we're going to talk about this like I keep saying, but you're doing a lot of stuff with the educational sites. You said you've been focusing on that the last year or so. Rhythm Ship and True Fire. Tell us about
yeah.
True Fire.
Well, True Fire hosts my channel, which I called Rhythm Ship, because it's a little play on words like musicianship. You're advancing your musicianship through your rhythm playing, so it's kind of like Rhythm Ship.
Okay, that's cool. We've talked a lot about with a lot of guests just maintaining income during the pandemic lockdown, because all the gigs have gone down. Anybody's touring has been shut down. Sessions are still happening. At first it was a lot of cats just get together to play, but now that's picking up, and a lot of guys have gone to doing the education thing. Some guys do it on their own, but I think True Fire do they host teaching sites? Is that what that is specifically, or is it just a hosting company?
Well, they record a lot of courses for all different artists.
Okay.
Joe's recorded a bunch of albums. Tommy Emmanuel, Steve Vai, my guitar partner Frank Vignola, Mimi Fox. You name it. I mean, if there's a guitar player out there, they've recorded a course for them. But they've also created channels so that people can subscribe to the channel, so that artists can just post up lessons, like, just talking on the road, giving advice, and giving recommendations on listening, what to listen to, and stuff like that. So definitely, if you check out TrueFire and see all the channels and all the courses that are available, there's just so much information. You could just, throughout all the lockdown, you could learn as much as you want about the guitar.
So is it like a subscription site, kind of almost like Patreon, more geared towards lessons?
Yes, in a way. For the channels, that's a very Patreon style of selling the lessons. But they also have courses where you could just buy a one-off course. Like, let's say you're interested in fingerstyle, you could buy a lesson just on fingerstyle. If you're into jazz guitar, you could buy a lesson from an artist that's just on jazz guitar. But then you could subscribe to somebody's channel, and then you could really get into that person's style and the way that they teach.
Cool. So just like I had Joe there explain the fingerstyle, there's something that I've seen you do a lot of, where you're kind of playing the boom, chick, boom, chick, playing the bass line and playing the chords at the same time. Do you have a name for that? And can you kind of demonstrate that? With that kind of, do you know what I'm talking about? Like you did on what was the Hungarian dance tune that I saw you play with Tommy and Frank?
Oh, well, that one is such a fast tempo. I'm really just hanging on for dear life. You might hear a little bit of the bass line, but really what it is it's not so much the bass line, it's more the rhythm. So I just use the pick. So, it's more of a percussive sound than it is really a bass line sound. So you can hear that there's really no bass line going in there, but you can really hear the percussive sound of what's going on there. It can really keep the groove going and keep the tempo moving forward.
Yeah, very exciting stuff. Well, would you like to play something for us?
Sure. We lost a lot of great guitar players this past year, unfortunately, and one of them was somebody who was very close to me, Bucky Pizzarelli. So any chance I get, I like to play something that Bucky played. So this is Stompin' at the Savoy. He always played this every show and had a great arrangement of it. So here's Stompin' at the Savoy.
Very nice. Very nice, Vinny. I'm going to take a second here to read some comments. I've been taking notes of all this. We've got a good little crowd in the rooms that are chatting up a storm, if I can get to the right page here. But and some of these comments come in late because there's a 30-second to 1 minute delay. So, let's see. Chris, my friend Chris, hi Chris out there, says, Joe, bravo. Brenton from Australia says, so good, Joe. Let's see. Howard also said, Joe, thoroughly enjoyed your playing, marvelous fingerstyle playing. Chris from New Orleans, he says, yes, Pat, beautiful. And also, bravo, Joe, wow. And don't worry, Vinny, the comments for you will come in the middle of the next thing. So we'll get to those. And Greg Tashker, who was with us in Maui, says, good to see you, Vinny. It's been a long time since Maui. And hi, Greg, and hi, some of our regulars. Howard Lubin is here. Howard says, he wants to know, Pat, is that a D'Angelico or D'Aquisto guitar?
It's a Roger Boris guitar, although Roger was an apprentice for D'Aquisto for quite some time, made quite a few of his guitars, I think, toward the end and so forth. But he's been on his own for a long time. I have two of his guitars. He's an East Coast guitar builder and been making guitars a long time.
Very cool. Yeah. So I know we were going to talk about guitars before, but I think it's, there it is. There's the alarm clock.
Uh-oh.
So all of you regulars out there know what it's time for. Conversations in Music. I promised a new bumper for that, and I finally did it. So, I guess I got to bump up the audio on that one. But it's time for Conversations in Music. This is where we let the guys actually try a little bit and play. Now, all y'all out there in internet land know that there's latency, so they can't actually play together. But they're going to trade some musical ideas. They're going to have a conversation. And I'm going to turn it over to you guys. And Pat, why don't you start it off?
We're going to jam on your song, Conversations in Music. Now let's do something different. Okay, so we're going to trade some blues choruses, I think we said. So here goes, I'll kick it off. wish we could do that together.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine at some point in the future they will figure out a way to get us all to jam together across the country. But that was still really great. And I got to, so we had a couple of comments come in, and Brenton from Australia said, what did he say? I want to get this exactly right. He said, oh, awesome, Vinny. And then Howard said, Vinny, he says, Vinny, full tone, seamless lines throughout your improv. So that's great. And let's see, Chris Cisneros says, thanks for a great night of guitar, and bravo, everyone is amazing. And I also want to thank Mark for sending in a tip. Thank you, Mark. And Chris and Christopher both sent in tips. So Chris from New Orleans and Christopher from South Carolina. They're friends of, they're friends. They've been here before. They're friends of the show. And then I see that Susan is now watching. Hi, Susan. She's out in New York. So hi, Susan. And let's. If you guys have any questions, I forgot to check. If just post them here in the chat rooms. I know I have a link to do that, but there's not a lot of. People are listening tonight more than typing away in the chat rooms. On the band nights, they scroll by so fast I can't keep track. But if somebody has a question for any of them, let's just bring it in. But while we're sitting here, I just want to do something really quick. I'm going to take a second and talk about the upcoming shows that are happening. So this Thursday, my band is playing. My trio is going to play. That's with Larry Steen and Chris Wabich. And next Thursday, we have the Paul Paris Band. And that's with Brandon Fields, Mitch Foreman, and Paul Paris is playing drums, and Ernest Tibbs on bass. Then we're doing Jazz Roundtable number 6 with Don Peake and Don Randy from the Wrecking Crew. I'm trying to get another Wrecking Crew member to come in. And they've got stories for days. That might be like a 6-hour show. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Following them is the Dave Dirge Trio, which is him, Kevin Axt, and Quinn Johnson on keyboards. Then Joey De Leon, the All-Stars. Joey's usually here on these Tuesday nights. I don't know if he's hiding back there in the internet land, but Joey's an amazing percussionist, played here months ago. And then Jazz Roundtable number 7. I've got a few guests, but I don't want to spoil it, so I'm going to wait till I get the rest of it finished. And then Conganas, which you remember from last month, is the full orchestra Latin quartet. We're booked all the way through June. I'm booking July and August right now. So come back, if you're on the mailing list, if you send a tip in, you get put on the mailing list. I don't spam you, I send one a week. And I have some exciting news in June. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary. That's amazing. We started, the first show was June 11th last year of the live streams. And this Jazz Roundtable, we just started officially in March. So anyway, that's the little commercial I have. And Brandon Fields is actually calling me right now, but I can't answer the phone because I'm online. Let me see if I can get back to the right software, and then I can bring these guys up. Hey, guys. So let's do another quick round again. I just want to talk to Pat for a second. And again, I don't like to dwell on the resumes of everybody so much, but because Pat, you've been around for a long time. You play with a ton of people. Do you have a favorite venue you ever played? Can you think of a place on tour somewhere?
Man, that is really a tough one.
Okay, name your top 20.
I played Carnegie Hall about 4 times, but I must say that wasn't necessarily as exciting as some venues, maybe some of the European venues. The North Sea Jazz Festival and the Nice, France Jazz Festival. Some of those festivals were really pretty cool. You see Miles Davis walking through the lobby hotel. I was always too afraid to try to say anything to him. But
I remember the North Sea Festival, because I played there a bunch of times. They used to put, when it was in The Hague, with a hotel that was just musicians.
Yeah.
And the jam session at night was off the hook. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I toured, you probably know, I toured with George Benson for 5 years. And so he did a lot of those European festivals and in concerts in Asia and lots of other places too. So some of those were an awful lot of fun.
Cool. And then now we talked about how you progressed from the fusion thing, but now you're doing a little bit more of a straight ahead thing with your newest album. What's the last album that you had came out?
I did a guitar duo record not too long ago because I love playing duo. I wish we could do that right here, right now with latency, because I know so many guitar players, and I did a record that was just 2 guitars on each song, kind of loose, but it was I had Peter Bernstein and Bruce Foreman, Frank Potenza, Anthony Wilson, Larry Kuntz, John Pisano, John Stoll, John Story, who did I forget? Probably forgot somebody. I better not have. I'm just trying to run it
Yeah.
down. But anyway, that was a really fun project, just getting together and doing like one song each with them. So I kind of
Now-
have plans to maybe do a second version. There's so many guys I'd like to do that with. So
And then you have an album out called "Sing Me Back Home." I guess that was about 5 years ago.
I did that. That was kind of a wacky record. I mean, not wacky. I really enjoyed doing it. I just mean different for me because, well, I taught at, this doesn't seem related, but I'll bring it in. I taught at USC in the guitar department for 24 years, which I just retired from not too very long ago, too. So we always had to do a merit review thing in the last few years I was here. And they would expect, you'd do some kind of project or album or something. And I had been going back to my hometown while my dad was ailing. And before he passed away, and I'd started going back there a lot, and I started playing with a lot of local musicians back in Tulsa, a lot of which I moved away from there so long ago. There were a few of them that I knew, but a lot of new musicians, and started doing a lot of gigs with some singers. So I just decided, hey, it'd be fun to do a record with some singers from Tulsa. So that's what that was all about. I recorded, actually at a studio there, I recorded a couple of tunes with each of 5 singers. Then I brought it back to my studio and just, finished doing it. Basically played everything on the record myself: drums, bass.
Wow.
All kinds of.
And you were like a main staple in the LA studios way back in the day, and you were also on the bands for Merv Griffin's show, Pat Sajak, Carol Burnett. That was, again, like a big heyday in music.
Yeah, that was really something because the Merv show. I was fortunate. I followed some amazing guitar players on that show because the show ran for 20-something years. It started in New York. Herb Ellis was on the show, Jim Hall, Mundell Lowe right before me in L.A., and then I came in and did about the last 5 years of that. So that kind of thing is really fantastic because there's still a lot of time to do all sorts of other things. And Mort Lindsay, the musical director, was fond of my compositions. I've written a lot of songs. I used to do mostly all original music, back in the earlier days. And he liked a lot of those and used a lot of them on the show as well for play-ons. So there were a lot of cool things that came out of that for sure.
And when we were doing the test runs leading up to the Jazz Roundtable, we had the socially distant shows. You and your wife, Francie, performed on our Valentine's Day, our Jazz Couples Day.
Yes, we did.
And she sang with you, and that was really special. We got to get her back on here
Yeah,
sometime.
gotta get her back.
Well, do you want to play another tune for us?
All right, well, let's play another tune. I'm going to play even an older song here.
All right.
Written in 1932 by a female composer, Anne Ronell, piano player, and it's called Willow Weep for Me.
Very nice, Pat. That was very cool. So I'm gonna catch up on some of these comments. So thanks everybody. But we had 3 that came in about conversations in music. Chris said super fun. Greg said brilliant, and Toby said wowee. So there you go. And Eddie did make a comment. Pat, you were talking about your duo album, and he said that is a great record. So we're getting a little bit more. And Eddie Davis says Pat makes it look easy, and Chris says wow, Pat. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
You know, let's get on to Joe. It's I'll find my Joe cam. There it is. Joe, you, I had one other thing I was going to ask you, and I'm looking at my notes here. But now you play in the Guitar Army. Are you doing that now?
We're not doing a whole lot with the Guitar Army now. That started out with Robin Ford, Leroy Parnell, and myself. And we toured, you know, we did kind of a West Coast Texas run and then a Northeast run. And then the second version featured John Jorgensen, Leroy Parnell, and myself.
Very cool.
And I'm looking forward to when I get to play with those guys again, but we haven't played together in a minute.
Cool. That sounds like a lot of fun. And looking at your upcoming shows, you've got a lot with Tommy Emmanuel.
Yeah.
And then you've got a lot of solo gigs, or it's just you're headlining. So is it with the band, or are you doing solo gigs, or what are you doing there?
I play solo when I headline. I had a trio for about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed playing with, you know, a kind of rotating cast of great musicians. But, you know, I've really gotten into the solo thing, and definitely Tommy has been a great influence and mentor, and, you know, how much you can do with just the guitar in a nice hall. And so, I'm looking forward to going out with him. We've had a tour scheduled for, you know, quite a while, and shows have been rescheduled and moved. So it's going to be great to share a stage with him again.
Very cool. And then your albums, the ones that I saw, Birdseed and then Time Jumping, that was more songwriting, and then Let Me Introduce You was your first rock instrumental. I mean, the first track on it was kind of a rock instrumental. It was almost a fusion sort of thing. And then Undertones and Borders, which is the current album out now. And I can just say, honestly, you know, I really like the albums because it showcases your virtuosity on guitar without screaming you in the face with it. You know, it's there, and you can definitely hear the groove and everything, and the writing is great, and diatonic, chromatic harmonies, oh wow, in a pop album, it's kind of cool. I don't want to say pop, I don't want to pigeonhole, I would suggest you go and find Joe's site and listen to these things. It's really cool musical stuff, and just like some really impressive guitar solos in there, and it reminds me, a year or so ago, or a couple of years ago, somebody said that the guitar solo is dying in popular music. You know, so much of it is heavily produced solos. You know, it's almost like they were written out ahead of time and that sort of thing. And I really got much more of an improvisational vibe from your tracks on your albums. And so I personally want to thank you for that. So,
well, thanks,
they sound
Billy.
like they're a lot of fun, and you're singing and everything. So how did that start? Was that just a natural evolution? I mean, I guess you also worked with Rodney Crowell for years, and he's such an amazing songwriter. Did you formally study with him, or was it just hanging out with him and hearing so many of those great lyrics that helped you with your lyric writing?
Yeah, well, hanging out with Rodney has really given me an appreciation for the craft of songwriting. The way it kind of evolved for me was I started playing a lot of solo concerts, and, you know, I'm on stage for 90 minutes, and I have, you know, people who are young, people who are older, people who are musicians, people who are non-musicians in the crowd. And I just felt like if I just played instrumental music, I wasn't giving people, you know, the best show I could give them. And so I wanted to sing, and I wanted to tell stories about Australia, and bring in more of that, you know, into my show. I even have a spoken word poetry song that I do in my show.
Nice.
And, you know, just finding really ways of developing a live show that's interesting and entertaining. That's where it came from. And, you know, over the last few years, I feel like I've started to hone my own sound and my own touch on the guitar. Mm-hmm. And so whenever I'm playing a song, whether it might be a kind of more blues-based song or a more folk-based song, song with a more of a funky groove. You know, I'm always just trying to maximize the melodic elements, the harmonic elements, and the rhythmic elements. Those are the three elements of music. And so people can call it a number of different genres, but really what I'm searching for is just doing something that I personally like, that I think is something unique. So
Yeah, I could really hear it, and it's one of those things. I'm such an instrumentalist. I rarely listen to lyrics until like the fifth time I've heard a song. But I was listening to your album in the car the other day, and I wouldn't say this if I didn't actually mean it. I would just shut up about it. But it's like I'm thinking, wow, these are like adult lyrics. They actually make sense, and it isn't just some. You know what I mean? I think we all know what I'm talking about. But so anyway, bravo to you on those albums. But you know, people can. I'll put all those links up, and they can find that. They can. And now you have a True Fire channel as well, just like Vinny, correct?
I do.
Cool.
Yep, it's called Guitar Synergy, and you know, I'm posting videos every week just about, and there's full breakdowns of songs. There's, you know, a whole chapter on technique, all kinds of different technique. And,
I get your
the
Facebook
channel's been great.
posts, and I see some of them pop up. And one of them I saw recently was like how to solo jazz over a D minor, you know, that sort of thing. That's really cool that you're doing that, and I'll encourage people to check it out. You know, there's always every one of us can always still learn from people and that sort of thing. So, but let's. Oh, and before you play your other tune, I know we're going really late because I got to stop saying this is an hour show because there's just too much to talk about. But you told me about a practice thing you're doing now that's very unique for a guitar player. You want to tell the folks about it?
Yeah, well, I mention this because I know, you know, you're such a great percussionist, Billy. But I've been playing drum rudiments on a pad and working with, you know, a variety of books, stick control for the snare drummer, especially, and just playing rudiments every morning. And like I mentioned, I post my practice schedule on my True Fire channel every day. And I find that working with a metronome and the pad, working on different rudiments, just really helps our sense of time as musicians. So, yeah, I have fun. I'm such a fan of great drummers too. I'm a frustrated drummer, I guess.
Well, you can hear the percussiveness and the groove in your solo playing, so it's obvious that's helped. But let's see. You want to play something for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Since this is the Jazz Roundtable, I will play a standard. This is my little rendition of Misty, and I kind of took it from being a ballad and put some tempo behind it. I made this arrangement when I was, you know, fairly young. So let's check it out.
Yeah, man. Very cool. And you were doing the whole bass line chords and melody thing at the same time. That just blows me away.
Yeah, it's fun.
But okay, let's go to Vinny. Hey, Vinny.
Hey, Billy.
Now let's see. We were talking about something. Let's see. You're doing a lot of playing around New York with just like all the cats there, right? Well, maybe not all of them.
Yeah, I'm trying to do as much as I can. Any gig I can get.
Are the clubs opening up yet out there?
Very slowly. There's no major clubs that have really opened up. It's a lot of just little restaurant gigs, outdoor gigs. Yeah, Birdland's still closed. Iridium's all closed. There's some jazz clubs that down in the village are opening up.
Did you lose any clubs? Did any fold during all of this? Because we had a couple in LA that closed. It was just tragic, you know.
Yeah, Birdland's having a lot of trouble. Broadway is still, you know, still dark. There's nothing really going on yet there. But yeah, the other clubs have been hanging in there. I don't know how they're doing it, how they're paying all this rent and not getting any income.
Well, I know
they're still doing it.
A new round of grants that is recently going out now, and I think a lot of it has to do with the Save Our Stages, so let's hope that they all survive. We lost a big one here in LA, and the other ones are hanging on, but, you know, we're doing a lot of patio stuff, so guys are getting gigs playing, you know, outdoor restaurant sort of things, and so it'll pick up, I'm hoping, so I'm optimistic. But on your now, do you have any books out, or is everything just on the teaching site?
I have some DVDs. I did a few for Stefan Grossman. There's about 4 out that I've done a couple years ago about rhythm guitar. There's a chord melody one. There's a more advanced rhythm guitar one. What else? There's a walking bass line lesson there. So not so much books, but you know, DVD with the book that goes along with it.
Hey, I'm going to jump in here real quick. Eddie asks, is Vinny coming back to Sacramento with Frank for the PBS in the future? Do you know?
I hope so. That was one of my favorite gigs. When you were talking about what's your favorite venue to play, I was thinking about it. It's not so much the venue, it's more so the excitement of actually playing that gig and playing PBS, especially in Sacramento. We actually recorded a PBS special in Sacramento with Bucky Pizzarelli and Tommy Emmanuel, and that was one of the most exciting times of my life because I was in my early 20s doing that, and here I am recording a television show with some of the greatest guitar masters alive.
Yeah, that's crazy. And now you sent me a link, which I'll put in the show notes, of you guys at am I pronouncing it correctly, the Tampere Guitar Festival?
Yeah, that was one that I found on YouTube when you were asking me about concerts. You know, I remember watching that one and thinking like, wow, these guys did a really great job recording this. Mm-hmm. I think it was also because they don't really have jazz at that festival. They have a lot of classical music. Actually, when we played there, the Assad brothers were playing the night after us. Wow. So they were really into recording acoustic music. So I think that's why that show came out so good, because they had such good microphones and they knew how to record for acoustic instruments.
Yeah, that's when I was talking earlier about the arrangements you guys do. They're just fantastic arrangements. It's not just like a head solo head sort of thing. And then how much fun you guys have on stage. And I can't remember the name of one of the songs, but you stop at the end and you have the audience sing the lyric back to you. So I put that link in the show notes, and I recommend everybody go. It's like an hour-long concert thing, but it's filmed really well. It sounds really good, and you get to see the kind of joy in music that Vinny and Frank have when they play together. So I'll put that up there. And then you got a couple of albums out, and you've got one called Air Guitar, which
that was a fun one to record.
You're not actually playing an air guitar. You're playing a real guitar.
No, there is actually music on there. My mother was a little concerned about me naming it air guitar because she thought that people would think that there's no music on it.
But it's all songs about flying and space and that sort of thing. And where did you get an idea for an album like that, Vinny?
Well, funny you should mention, because we were talking about this the other night. But I a couple years ago I got my pilot's license, And so flying around, kind of poking holes in clouds and stuff like that has become very inspiring for me. Just like music, how it's an endless learning experience. You never stop. You never stop the ongoing forward motion of it. The same thing with flying. It's just you're just always learning something new, always having a new experience, and always going somewhere. Of course. So I decided to, record an album. It was actually when my guitar partner, Frank Vignola, who I've been playing with for about 15 years now, he actually got into a very bad accident. So he had to take over a year off. And so I was kind of like, well, I had about 90% of my gigs with him. So that was when I decided to record an album on my own. And I decided, I needed some inspiration. So flying has been a huge part of my life in the past probably 6 or 7 years.
Wow, that's really cool. Musicians who do other things. That's going to be a new segment on the show. And you have another album coming up called what is it? Jet Guitar?
Yeah, well, I've been toying around with that because during this COVID, really did take on another job. I became a charter jet pilot, so I fly Learjets now. So I've been trying to figure out a way to record a new album that has something to do with that.
I figured you probably figured it was either that or Postmates. So why not just fly Learjets? Just seems like
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you want to play one more thing for us?
Sure. I mean, I do have the channel up on TrueFire, and I was working today. Somebody requested My Melancholy Baby, so I've been playing around with that today. So here's a little My Melancholy Baby in the key of C major.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. So,
Thank you.
yeah, that was great. Just a couple of quick comments. Let's see. Howard just says thank you. Larry says this is so good. I already told you he's going to go see Joe, you, and Tommy in Kalamazoo. Be careful.
Very
I
cool.
spent a week in Kalamazoo one night. There's the drummer. He's always late. Let's see. Francie says Joe is awesome. And he is, okay? Toby says, hi, Vinny, nice to meet you. Like I said, some of these kind of come in staggered because you guys are playing. And Susan from New York says, beautiful. And Larry says the same thing, beautiful, Vinny. And Chris is saying, awesome, Vinny. So we've got a pretty good little crowd here, and they all seem to really enjoy it. And thank you. Oh, I forgot Brenton, our friend from Australia, sent a tip in. So thank you, Brenton. Anybody else want to do that? You know, the links are up there. Every little bit helps. Keep these things going for musicians and for the channel and everything. So I think, you know, we're kind of running out of time. I wanted to, you know, have a big discussion between Vinny and Pat on which is the better ocean, the Atlantic or the Pacific, but we're going to have to do that in a future episode. But before we go, one topic that I saw one of Joe's videos recently came out. I can't remember when I saw it, but I loved the title of it. It was just called Talent is BS. Joe, do you want to, expand on that a little bit?
Well, sure. Yeah, I actually posted it a year from today, a year ago. So I was thinking about that video recently, and, I had a tremendous reaction from it. I had so many people reach out to me. A lot of people push back against it, but basically, I just described my experience with learning to play the guitar, and I do get frustrated when people underestimate their own ability to play a musical instrument, for example, and they say, I don't have the talent. And I think, it does take a lot of time and patience and deliberate practice, to develop musical skills. But not being willing to put in the time is one thing, but saying that you don't have the talent is another. So, yeah, I'd be curious to hear everyone's view on that. But the way I described it, and I've been influenced by people like Anders Ericsson, who has a great book called Peak, which is just about, he was kind of the starter of the 10,000 hour idea. And basically I said, it seems to me to be a combination of focus, flair, and feedback. So focus is, practicing and practicing deliberately, working on specific musical things. And it's actually about doing less. So when I was, growing up and practicing like a madman, I wasn't going out and partying with my friends, mainly because I grew up in the bush and there was only the cows to hang out with. Flair is important. Flair, F-L-A-I-R, which is just kind of enjoying playing and getting a sense of, I dig figuring this out. For me, piano was an instrument that I just didn't have any kind of a flair for. I didn't like it. And feedback, which I think is critical, is, having good mentors and good people around you and people to encourage you. And just a really good environment. I grew up in a musical community. So I think those factors are what makes, an accomplished musician. That's my view. The more I think about it, the more I agree with it. And I think, a lot of people have this idea that some people are just blessed with talent and some people aren't, and I think that's just not accurate.
Pat, I agree with you completely. I've always considered interest and desire more important than the actual talent, because if you have the desire to sit in a room for 8 hours a day, you're going to be the best player you can be. Whatever level that comes out to is probably more important than a cat that can do something simple easily the first time. Pat, Vinny, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I think
It's really difficult to make it look this easy.
Yeah.
Well, somebody said something about it looking easy. a while ago, but I mean, Joe, you nailed it. I mean, it takes a lot of time, and you have to love having the instrument in your hand. I mean, you've got to do it a lot, or you're not going to do it enough. Probably, like, you know. So when you found the guitar instead of the piano, yeah, probably totally did it. Yeah, it's amazing. It's a building process. Sometimes I can't even believe how many years I've been playing so far, you know, and I still love playing and play every day. So it got to just keep doing it, you know, and you build on it.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to end with this. A couple of quickie comments of Bunny and Eddie agree with you, Joe. Eddie just simply says, yep. And Bunny says, it's bloody hard work, practice, practice, practice. And there's no shortcut to it. You know, that's the great thing about music is the people that we admire, it's because they put the time in and that sort of thing. So, but I want to thank you guys all for coming. Again, Pat Kelley, our Los Angeles representative. Our senator from the great musical state of Tennessee, Joe Robinson. And of course, Vinny from New York. Always a pleasure to see you guys. Now, I am going to be in Nashville twice this year, Joe, so hopefully I'll get to see you and hang out a little bit.
Great, Billy. Look forward to catching up, mate.
Yeah, and Vinny, I will actually be out on Long Island a couple of times again this year, so hopefully you can come hang a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Let me know, please.
And Pat, I'll be in LA a lot, so hopefully I'll see you soon. I have a big, we talked about some of the shows before, but I have a big, huge extravaganza. We're planning for the 1-year anniversary, so stay posted. If you're not on the mailing list, please do. Thank you for the tips, those of you who sent something in. It's not too late. If you get an idea tomorrow, or you're listening to this in archive or the podcast, go ahead and do that if you'd like to help us out. Also, we do release this as a podcast, comes out usually the Friday afterwards. I pretty up all the audio, compress it, make it sound great, and release it as a podcast, and that's been going great. We're getting more listeners all the time. So if you are listening to this, you've made it all the way to the end, and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Just go ahead and click subscribe and check it out. We're going to have a lot of fun with these, and they'll just get better as time goes on. And that's all I have to say. I'm going to play the outro video, and I hope you guys will watch it because I spend hours on these things. But, I think that's all I've got for this week. And thank you again, Pat, Joe, and Vinny. Thanks for your time. I know it's late for some of you guys out there, but we'll hope to see you all soon and hope to see you guys out there. Thank you for all the regulars. Oh, I forgot to mention Toby's here. Toby's one of our main regulars. She helps promote the show and everything. So hi, Toby. And I think that's it. Here's our outro. See you guys later.
Thanks for joining us at Live at 0 BPM. These videos we archived on YouTube and Facebook, so tell your friends. These Jazz Roundtable shows will also be released as a podcast, so please subscribe. Coming up on Thursday, May 6th, it's the Billy Holting Trio featuring me, Billy Holting, Larry Steen, and Chris Wabbage. Showtime, 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific. And as always, it's free, though donations are greatly appreciated. Go to live@0bpm.com for details and to sign up for our mailing list. Also, find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. See you soon.